Let's look at the effects of the nuclear crisis in Japan. My guests are Richard Kelley, nuclear engineer and former director at the International Atomic Energy Association, and also with me here in New York, Chris Gadomski. He's a lead nuclear analyst at Bloomberg New Energy Finance. Gentlemen, good to have you with us. Robert, first to you, and can you explain a little bit about the technical details of the plants in question in Japan, and are they the similar designs that are used here in the United States?
Yes, this is one type of reactor that's in the U.S. There are really basically two types, and this one is in use in a few places. It's the minority use. It's a reactor that was designed in the 1960s, went online in 1971, and was doing fairly well over the years. It was surprisingly not damaged in the earthquake, which was 10 times bigger than what it was designed to withstand. Unfortunately, an hour after the earthquake, the tsunami wiped out their emergency power systems, and that's when things started to go bad.
Chris, sorry, yes. Just I want to bring Chris on this as well. You're hearing what Robert is describing in terms of the design of the plant. Have there been changes in the way that investors and companies are looking at nuclear power plants since these plants were designed?
Well, obviously, there's been a tremendous amount of operating history that the nuclear power industry has gathered over the last 40 years since these plants were first built. This is a Generation 1 design, and several subsequent follow-up designs have evolved so that now we have technology that's available from Westinghouse or Riva that have passive safety systems. So understandably, the design goal is so that in case a tremendous, horrible event like this happens, that these reactors can shut down with very, very little outside management of the process, and they sort of passively shut down and therefore avoid some of the problems that we're seeing today.
Robert, Kelley, based on your experience and what you know about the situation currently in Japan, is there anything more that the officials should be doing?
No, it looks like they've been very imaginative. They followed their plan to the extent that one can follow the plan, and now that they're reaching a point where some desperate measures are required, they're doing that quite imaginatively. The introduction of salt water into the reactors is an admission of the fact that these reactors are ruined, they're toast, they'll never be used again. And so putting salt water in there is just an additional way of trying to cool them down so that the fuel won't melt and cause a massive release.
All right, Chris, power in the United States, how much is generated by nuclear power?
We get about 20% of our electricity energy from nuclear power. That comes from 104 reactors, and we have the largest number of nuclear reactors of any country in the world, though percentages of nuclear are higher in Japan and also in France, which gets almost 79% of its energy from nuclear power.
And what kind of safety record do those plants have here in the U.S.?
Well, we've had the unfortunate event at 3 Mile Island several years ago, but
more than several years ago. This is going back to at least the 1970s.
But the important thing to know is that during the last several years, the use of nuclear power has gotten a lot more efficient. So the capacity factors, the amount of time that those nuclear power plants are being used, goes up every single year. And now we are world records, so we have about 90.5% of capacity factor. That means we're really putting these assets to very, very good use and generating a lot of electricity.
Robert Kelley, let me come to you and mention that we're talking about 3 Mile Island and the legacy for the nuclear power industry in the United States. As someone that oversees global nuclear production, what were you able to determine from Chernobyl, and are there any comparisons to be made with what is going on in Japan right now?
Well, a comparison that can be made is this is nothing like Chernobyl. It's a serious event. It offers some risk. It's worse than 3 Mile Island, but it's not 1,000th as bad as Chernobyl. Chernobyl was a reactor that was running. It was run up to full power and beyond, and it exploded while it was running. There was no containment building whatsoever on Chernobyl, which we have now at least 2 layers of containment that seem to be relatively intact in Japan. And finally, Chernobyl had a graphite core, basically charcoal. And when that 100 tons of charcoal caught on fire with radioactive fuel in it, this huge fire lofted into the air and carried it for hundreds of miles. Nothing like that is going to happen in Japan. no matter how bad it could be in Japan, it won't begin to approach that.
So, Robert Kelley, right now the government in Japan handing out iodine pills to some of their citizens. What effects on the health and on the local environment can we expect?
Oh, I think the iodine pills make all the sense in the world. If you're the captain of a ship that's drifting toward the rocks, you give your passengers life preservers before you hit the rocks, okay? And then if the ship is saved and it's pulled off by the tugboat, no harm, no foul. But if you give people the life jackets after they hit the rocks, there's a problem. You have to give potassium iodide to people before they're exposed. So it's part of the plan. It's just to say if things don't go well, we're going to help you. And life jackets are the same thing. Nobody likes to see them, but you want them when you need them.
Chris Gadomski, we've all been watching the videos of the explosions taking place at the various plants, Fukushima, Dai-Ichi. Is there any way that you can gauge, other than the stock market right now, what the long-term effects are going to be on the valuations for nuclear power? Because we saw Shaw Industries, the stock sold off. We also saw, for example, Cameco. Deborah Costin was mentioning about the sell-off in the shares of that uranium mining company. Do you think that they're going to rebound?
I think fundamentally they will, and the reason they're going to do this is that the world is facing a carbon problem. If we're going to be against carbon and we don't use nuclear energy, then we have to have a tremendous reliance on solar and alternative technologies. Those technologies are going to grow and prosper and develop. But in the meantime, we need to have the power of nuclear energy. Nuclear energy is a very, very dense technology, produces a tremendous amount of electricity, and it complements renewable energies tremendously. And I think that the future of the energy sector will be to go away from CO2 emitting fossil fuels and to have a combination of nuclear and renewables going forward and doing that. And many countries in Europe, for example, Netherlands, see nuclear power as a transition until they can fully implement renewable technologies into the generating portfolio.
Robert Kelley, based on your experience and what you know about the plans for China to expand its nuclear energy industry, do you think they're going to make any changes to the designs of those reactors?
I don't think they have to. It's a different kind of reactor. It's a pressurized water reactor of a later generation, as Chris was saying. I think they will look at this very carefully and see if there are any lessons to be learned. But I think they will then go forward with the 40 gigawatts that they just announced. You have to remember that these reactors in Japan did not fail because of the earthquake. They survived an earthquake much larger than they were designed to survive. It was a tsunami that got them. And I don't think China has that particular problem. China will press forward. They need the clean energy. They'll have to go forward. They obviously will try to learn from what happened here.
I want to give you the last word, Chris. Have you seen any change in the disposition of investors long-term putting their money behind nuclear power?
Well, obviously, people are very, very concerned because it looks like all hell is breaking loose over there, and it's very, very disconcerting. We are concerned about the people in Japan, and we're concerned about the impact of the crisis over there. But one thing we have to realize is that this is a technology that countries who tend to lead into the 21st century are going to have to master and manage very effectively, along with renewable technologies. The two of them I see going hand in hand very well till we get to the carbon-free environment, because what's going to kill us maybe is going to be the predominance of carbon in the atmosphere. And I think that these two technologies working together can be very, very effective in the long term.
I want to thank you, gentlemen, very much. Chris Gadomski joining us as the head of Bloomberg New Energy Finance, and also Robert Kelley from Vienna, from the International Atomic Agency. Coming up.